On January 17, 1920, the United States tried to turn off a national habit by law. The 18th Amendment was in force, the Volstead Act defined what counted as intoxicating liquor, and millions of people were told that the saloon age was over. But in city after city, the drinking did not disappear. It moved behind false doors, below sidewalks, into warehouses, onto rivers, and into rooms that were not supposed to exist. The legend says Prohibition America was honeycombed with secret tunnels, whole underground cities of jazz clubs, bootleg bars, police escapes, and hidden liquor routes. The fact is more complicated, and more useful. Some hidden rooms and cellar passages were real. Some smuggling corridors were documented. But many tunnel stories became local folklore, repeated because they sounded right, not because anyone could prove them. To understand the real story, start with the law. The 18th Amendment banned the manufacture, sale, and transportation of intoxicating liquors. The Volstead Act gave federal officers the machinery to enforce it. It did not ban every private sip, and it did not erase the demand for alcohol. It created a market where every bottle needed secrecy, protection, or a lie. That market changed American space. Ordinary buildings became suspicious. A restaurant basement could be a storeroom or a bar. A barber shop could be a front. A hotel corridor could lead to a room with a lookout. The dark history is not that every city built tunnels. It is that normal architecture became part of a hidden economy. Speakeasies were not always glamorous rooms with orchestras and movie-star lighting. Some were cramped back rooms, apartments, cellars, private clubs, or lunch counters that served alcohol to customers who knew the signal. The word itself pointed to caution: speak easy, keep your voice down, do not attract the wrong person at the wrong time. Police and federal agents recorded raids on hidden bars, stills, storage rooms, and distribution networks. National Archives material on bootlegging investigations shows the work was not folklore. Agents tracked shipments, informants, forged labels, bribes, coded arrangements, and the movement of liquor through places that looked ordinary from the street. The public image of the bootlegger was a man with a fast car and a gun. That existed, but it was only one layer. The business also needed chemists, drivers, clerks, guards, bartenders, warehouse owners, corrupt officials, ship captains, and customers who were willing to pretend they did not know where the liquor came from. One reason tunnel stories survived is that Prohibition did create real hidden infrastructure. A speakeasy did not need a medieval passage to be secret. It needed a concealed entrance, a lockable door, a lookout, a back exit, and a way to move bottles before a raid. A basement stair could become as important as a road. In some cities, older underground spaces already existed before Prohibition. Utility corridors, service tunnels, delivery basements, coal chutes, storage vaults, and connected cellars were part of urban life. When alcohol became illegal, those spaces were easy to fold into rumor. A practical basement route became, in memory, a vast bootleg tunnel. This is where myth and fact split. A real cellar under a bar is evidence of a cellar. A blocked doorway may show renovation, fire code changes, or storage access. It does not automatically prove a secret criminal passage. The best Prohibition stories are the ones that admit the uncertainty instead of turning every brick arch into a getaway route. Detroit made the underground legend feel believable because its real smuggling geography was extraordinary. Across the Detroit River sat Windsor, Ontario. During Prohibition, Canadian liquor could be legally produced and sold for export under conditions that made the border a massive pressure point. Boats, cars, warehouses, and winter ice all became part of the story. The Detroit River was not a mythic tunnel. It was a documented route. Smugglers used speed, darkness, bribery, and geography. Bottles could move by boat in warm weather and across frozen stretches when conditions allowed. The strangest detail is that the most cinematic smuggling route was not underground at all. It was open water, hiding in plain sight after midnight. Chicago gave the story another shape. There, Prohibition fused with organized crime, political corruption, and public violence. Al Capone became the name everyone remembered, but the system was larger than one man. Breweries, protection rackets, truck routes, roadhouses, and speakeasies depended on a city where enough people were willing to look away. The famous gangster version can distort the history. Prohibition was not only Tommy guns and newspaper headlines. It was also bookkeeping, rent, passwords, debt, and quiet daily compromise. Every hidden bar needed customers. Every customer made enforcement harder. The law created criminals, but it also exposed how many ordinary people preferred convenience to obedience. New York had its own mythology: clubs behind doors, hotels with private drinking rooms, and high society guests who treated the law as a nuisance. The city did not need one giant tunnel system to defeat prohibition. It had density, money, ports, restaurants, nightlife, and anonymity. In a crowded city, secrecy could be built out of noise. Rum Row, off the Atlantic coast, shows the same pattern at sea. Ships waited beyond the legal reach of American authorities, selling liquor to smaller boats that ran it ashore. This was not a ghost story. It was a logistical answer to a legal boundary. Move the supply just outside the line, then make the last miles fast, dark, and profitable. Bootlegging also happened far from glamorous cities. Rural stills, mountain roads, farm buildings, and backcountry routes mattered. Some operators made liquor locally. Others moved it through networks that were dangerous because every link could betray the next. A hidden still in the woods could be as important as a hidden room beneath a club. The federal government answered with raids, seizures, prosecutions, and publicity. Photographs from the period show barrels destroyed, stills dismantled, seized equipment displayed, and officers turning illegal liquor into proof. Those images were meant to show control. But they also show the scale of the problem. If enforcement had to be staged everywhere, the market was everywhere too. There was another dark layer: poison. Industrial alcohol was diverted, denatured, redistilled, and sometimes sold to drinkers with deadly consequences. Some liquor was badly made. Some was deliberately contaminated before criminals tried to make it drinkable again. The hidden world did not only break the law. It put chemistry into the hands of desperate sellers. That is why the myth of the cozy secret bar can be misleading. A speakeasy could be exciting, but the supply chain behind it could involve violence, corruption, blindness, paralysis, or death. The room with music was the visible surface. Beneath it was a market where safety depended on criminals, counterfeit labels, and luck. Even the word moonshine carries a double image. It can sound rustic or almost charming now, but illegal distilling was a technical risk. Bad cuts, contaminated containers, and careless production could harm or kill. Prohibition did not invent dangerous alcohol. It made dangerous alcohol harder for buyers to identify before it was too late. The Mob Museum's prohibition histories emphasize the contradiction. The law was meant to improve public morals, but it gave organized crime a larger opportunity. Demand stayed high. Profits rose. Criminal groups learned how to coordinate supply, intimidate rivals, bribe officials, and present themselves as service providers for a public that still wanted a drink. So where do the tunnels fit? In the strongest version of the story, they were one tactic among many. A hidden passage could help move bottles from storage to a bar, avoid a front entrance, or give staff a way to hide evidence during a raid. In the weaker version, the tunnel becomes a magic explanation for every old basement in America. Local tours often point to sealed doors, brick arches, and underground rooms as prohibition evidence. Some may be connected to real drinking history. Others may be older service spaces, later renovations, coal storage, or simple basements with a better story attached. The responsible wording is reported, believed, associated with, or used according to local accounts, unless records prove more. This is not a reason to dismiss every tunnel story. It is a reason to ask better questions. Who recorded it? When was it built? Was it mentioned during Prohibition or only decades later? Does it connect useful places, or just look mysterious? Is there a police report, a building record, a newspaper account, or only a guidebook line repeated until it hardened into fact? The Prohibition world rewarded exactly this kind of ambiguity. A hidden room only had to fool the right people for the right amount of time. A story only had to be plausible enough that nobody asked too many questions. Both the criminals and the later legends benefited from darkness. Women were central to the politics of Prohibition, but the underground drinking world also changed women's public lives in complicated ways. In some cities, speakeasies mixed men and women more openly than old saloons had. The same law that claimed to protect the home helped create nightlife spaces where older social rules were harder to police. Race and class shaped the hidden map too. Wealthy drinkers could access private clubs and safer supplies. Poorer drinkers were more exposed to dangerous liquor and harsher policing. Black musicians helped define the sound of the era while often facing segregation and exploitation in the very nightlife economy that profited from their work. The law also produced hypocrisy at scale. Politicians who supported enforcement could still drink privately. Police could raid one place and protect another. Judges, businessmen, hotel owners, and local officials could condemn bootlegging in public while benefiting from it in private. A secret tunnel is a perfect symbol for that double life. By the middle of the 1920s, the problem was not just illegal alcohol. It was the credibility of government. A law that millions ignored taught people to treat enforcement as negotiable. Every successful speakeasy made the state look weaker. Every corrupt officer made the law look for sale. The economy around Prohibition was also adaptive. When enforcement pressure rose in one place, routes shifted. When a supplier was arrested, another could take over. When real liquor was scarce, substitutes appeared. Hidden America was not a single underworld. It was a flexible network responding to risk and profit. This is why photographs of confiscated equipment are so revealing. Stills, barrels, bottles, hoses, and laboratory gear look almost mundane. They are not monsters. They are tools. The horror is that an entire illegal industry could be assembled from ordinary objects once the money was large enough. The end came through politics, economics, and exhaustion. During the Great Depression, arguments for repeal gained force. Legal alcohol could be taxed, legal jobs could be created, and the failed enforcement system could be unwound. In 1933, the 21st Amendment repealed national prohibition. The great experiment was over. But repeal did not erase the architecture of secrecy. The old stories stayed. Basements became legends. Brick doors became clues. Restaurants discovered that a prohibition rumor could sell atmosphere. Cities built tours around the idea that beneath the normal street was another America, darker and more honest than the one above. Some of those stories deserve attention because they preserve real memory. Others deserve skepticism because they flatten history into entertainment. Midnight Vault is interested in the border between the two, the point where a true criminal economy becomes a ghost story with cocktails. The most important fact is that Prohibition did not fail because Americans found one clever trick. It failed because demand, money, corruption, geography, and culture all pushed against the law at once. Tunnels could help, but they were never the whole machine. The machine was human appetite under pressure. Look again at the underground image. It works because it feels literal, a country with one moral face above ground and another life below it. That image is not entirely false. But the deeper truth is that much of the hidden world was not hidden very well. People knew. They joked. They paid. They entered through the side door. The bootlegger did not need everyone to be criminal. He needed enough people to be practical. The bartender needed silence. The driver needed a route. The officer needed a reason not to see. The customer needed a story to tell themselves, just one drink, just one night, just one harmless rule broken in a country full of broken rules. That is why the tunnel legend refuses to die. It gives shape to a contradiction. Americans wanted order and rebellion, morality and pleasure, law and loophole. The secret passage under the street becomes a national confession. The official entrance was closed, so people built another way in. Myth says the whole country was secretly connected by underground bars. Fact says the hidden world was messier, documented smuggling routes, real concealed rooms, corrupt protection, dangerous liquor, and many local tunnel claims that still need proof. The fact version is darker because it does not need fantasy to be disturbing. When you hear that a bar has a prohibition tunnel, ask what kind of evidence is being offered. A photograph, a permit, a newspaper report, a police file, an oral history, or only a good story. The question does not ruin the legend. It separates history from decoration. The strangest part is that Prohibition's hidden world was created by people trying to control behavior. The more they tried to force the country dry, the more elaborate the wet world became. Doors were disguised. Bottles were relabeled. Routes multiplied. The law made secrecy valuable, and America proved extremely good at secrecy. So the secret tunnels that hid America's illegal booze were real in one sense and exaggerated in another. Some hidden spaces carried bottles. Some carried rumors. Some carried both. What they all reveal is a country where the official story and the lived story split apart, and the gap between them became profitable. In the end, the underground is not just a place. It is a warning. When a law loses the people it depends on, enforcement can chase shadows forever. It can smash barrels, raid rooms, and photograph evidence. But somewhere, behind another door, someone is already whispering the password.